Take care of it.
I saw
Yeah.
my sister got young.
That's wild.
Okay, we're ready to go.
Okay.
You got no more?
Far.
Okay. Yes, Nancy is not here, so is there somebody who would volunteer to do minutes? And remember, you can do high level. High level minutes. You do such a thorough job, you don't have to do such.
We have.
It's not
Now it's back, Jim.
really no other way.
Wow.
You know me, there's no other way.
She sneezed and said, excuse me, please.
That's why I don't do minutes, because I do the exact same.
So, you know, a lot of tonight is catching up on things and also planning for things coming. So there is a fair amount of detail. Nancy, by the way, we should say, has let us know that they will be doing a lot of traveling, and so after December, she'll end her term because she's going to miss this meeting and the next meeting, and would be missing a lot of meetings going forward.
Oh, that's too bad.
Which is too bad.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that she might not come back at some point.
Is that the end of her term? Is that what you said?
Well, we'll talk
Yeah,
about
okay.
terms when we get to that. 'Cause
Okay,
that's a subject to be
okay.
filled out. We have 2 sets of minutes, and Sean sent those out after the last meeting, so take a motion to approve. We can approve both of those together if you wish.
So moved.
Lenny, and second by Artie. Were there any corrections, additions? Better be good, Mara.
Yes, there isn't. Shall I write that down?
I thought I read in last month's, and unfortunately, I didn't underline it, that we were going to talk in depth about the exhibition space at this
Yes.
meeting. Did we say that we were going to talk in depth at this meeting?
We did.
Oh, okay.
If we're
well, then
ready
it's
for
not-
it, or
We're
if we're
not,
not
it's not,
ready
it's
for it.
not a correction then. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't, yeah,
We may or may not be ready for it.
yeah.
So, all in favor of the 2 sets of minutes?
Sure.
Okay, good. We'll start in the updates, and we'll start with Nebby, with breaking news just today. So Ernie, you can go over all that.
Okay, so we heard from Anthony today and Nebby was scanned yesterday. So they're preparing for the 3D printing. I also thought it was exciting. He's gonna make a 30-inch resin model that we can carry around with us for fundraising and that kind of thing.
That's really.
Yeah, so that'll be exciting.
And I interpreted from that it would be like 3D printed. Is that what you?
Yes,
interpreted?
yeah. Oh, yeah. It'd be a model that we can take,
Yeah.
with us or put on display or, however we want to use it.
But now I'm confused because I actually saw a 3D printed little tiny sculpture, but is the bronze itself is not going to be 3D printed. It can't. be.
No,
It's the mold for the bronze that's going to be, for the casting that's going to be, yeah, okay, I'm trying to picture it.
He didn't mention the cost, so I'm thinking that
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 he's just
means
rolled
that
that
he's
into-
just rolled it in. Did you assume that?
that's what I
didn't
was
wanna-
saying. Yeah.
That's very nice.
But I
because
did think,
it'll help fundraise.
yeah, I think it'll be great. So that was good news. We are up to $82,625. So we're moving along. Some people have been very busy with their asks. And One thing we're talking about doing now is, getting in front of some groups. Oh, did you have a question, Linda?
Excuse me, any clarification, please?
Yeah.
We're up to 82,625 for NEBI specifically.
NEBI, yes.
In the fundraising.
Yes.
Thank
And
you.
Sean has two
I have a
updates.
check. 2,500.
Oh, good.
Oh,
that's a big
fabulous.
Desk
So
Okay.
2,500 and what?
from Barbara Sweet.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
we are up to.
Oh, wait, I have two checks on my desk.
Oh,
Today, received one from the Portsmouth Rotary,
Oh,
$1,000.
oh,
So 3,500 on my desk.
Okay.
That will be walked down to finance tomorrow.
excellent.
Excellent.
Very sweet, Barbara Sweet.
That's great.
Yeah, wonderful. I'll make sure I get that down.
New total.
Yeah, so I can't do it in my head, but that's 3,500. 86.
Yeah.
So we're getting close to 90, right?
Okay.
Terrific. So that's good. So what we're trying to do is get in front of groups, like we're gonna speak to Rotary. So maybe that'll be the start of something. But we're also talking with Chris has been talking with South Church about speaking in front of their social justice group. So if anybody has any ideas in groups that it might be appropriate to get out there and kind of just do like an update on public art in Portsmouth, but then with kind of a soft focus on NEBI and the opportunity to fundraise. So if anybody has any connections, like we were thinking, I don't know if the Athenaeum,
I can talk to you.
And what about PMAC? Do they have anything upcoming that we could speak? They have things all the time. I don't know if they would be a good,
Oh, well, that's a good idea.
or maybe
Okay.
even like making a
Musical.
presentation to their board or something.
The music hall, when they have groups come for.
I wonder if they do one of their members events, that they have those members events. Where, I know they've done like the gallery at 3S and,
Ideally, we would do one outside, but that would be a lot of work on our part to pull all that.
yeah.
Because the host usually pulls all that together.
Right.
Like Mark McNabb has done it and different restaurants have done it.
I was thinking if they were having, not a book talk, because that would be a
Yeah.
very specific audience, but some other event that was.
Appropriate event.
That was connected somehow to, I don't know, indigenous people or public art or
Yeah. that's a
something
good
that would
idea.
fit in.
Yeah,
I'll just say that the chamber is gonna be ramping up their big push to the end of the year, lots of events. So maybe a conversation with
oh,
Ben.
maybe Ben has an
You might
idea.
know appropriate
Yeah,
opportunities, not just showing up to an event,
Yeah.
but appropriate ones that
Right.
would fit.
right, that's good. I wonder if the tourism summit is an appropriate thing.
Oh, you mean it comes around next year, in the spring?
That'll be late, but
Yeah.
we should look at that for other purposes.
What about community radio? Getting,
Oh, good idea.
You're getting some good ideas here. Good. Yeah.
Oh, I
Well,
wonder
that's
if we should do, get on the radio with, was it Kathy and, did you already do that?
Well, no, but that would be,
Yeah.
that would be,
They'll also do
Kathy.
a little ad, they do nonprofit ads. We
Yeah.
could do
that's perfect. Kathy
Yeah,
Thompson.
Kathy, yeah, she's
program.
great.
Yeah,
When is that street life dinner? So that,
The chamber, that's on the 9th.
yeah, that's at Water Country this year.
It's, yeah.
So
If it was
Yeah.
last year, was at Bell Hanko, it would have
Yeah.
been perfect.
Yeah, Bill Hank
Hanko
going
last
us
year,
walking around saying, here's the next thing. Oh.
those are great ideas.
Yeah, they're great. Yeah, so if you think of anything else, that's just the kind of thing you're looking for.
Or it doesn't have to be speaking, because we're gonna do like an article for a newsletter. So if there's an appropriate like online newsletter where we could do a nice little piece. Because we've raised enough money now that we can start going public because we know it's gonna happen, obviously.
Of course, you might, there's a big chamber awards luncheon.
Yeah.
Oh,
You might check with Ben on that, the appropriateness, but that's, it's the business awards for the year. So it's pretty heavily attended
That
It's
would be great. When does that happen?
early December.
Okay,
Um,
perfect.
and again, they're back and they're focused on their fall, winter programs.
Okay.
And could we do a presentation at our opening that we have this fall? One that we're having here? That be an appropriate place or not really?
It's hard. I mean, first of all, it's crowded.
It's very crowded.
Maybe
It
a
kind of
handout.
takes away from
Yeah, that's why I was
Artists
just
that
asking.
are-
Yeah, I
yeah.
don't want to do that.
Maybe a handout.
a handout, though,
Oh, yes, we should have like a little,
an up-to-date handout.
yes,
Yeah.
that's a great idea.
What about getting in touch with the Abenaki people? Do they have any event coming up, like a
You know,
cultural event?
we've tried to do that, but I think actually asking about an event, we've asked them for sources of potential donors, but asking about an event might be a good way to go.
Yeah, 'cause it could be.
What about the farmer's market? I don't know how many more days we have that are city days at the farmer's market.
I think the city tent is always up now because Carl will use it for the municipal building, the library will use it, rec will use it. I
That's
think it's
cool.
We
always up.
share the table with them, do you think?
We could just put a poster up.
If
Yeah,
the-
or have some
Yeah,
literature.
you can check with the city manager's office what the schedule is, and they might tell you, here's an open week.
Right, or here, you can join us on
Or
this
here's
to
a week.
talk about.
They can tell you who's gonna be where, and if you decide you wanna partner with the library
Yeah,
or something else, that's an opportunity.
yeah.
When is the 30-inch?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah,
That would
we
be
need-
pretty
that would
cool to
collect-
have that sitting on the table.
My one hesitancy on that.
Yeah.
Is I would clear with the city manager fundraising from the city.
You're right. You're right.
I would clarify.
It's more info.
You can share info and hand
Yeah.
out
Right.
information.
Yeah. That's right.
That has QR codes about donating. Like, here's where to, like, information about how to donate.
Yeah, informing them that what the park is up to,
Yeah, these are really good
and a little
ideas.
QR code on the back.
Well, we could have the inventory up on a laptop there and then have the,
Scrolling through the-
and just starting conversations. And maybe even collecting names of people that are interested in
That's right.
public art, even recruiting for parks.
Sure. No, I think that's good.
How about at the public library, just having some,
Well, that's what we're hoping when we get this little model to be able to use, to display it there. Because I think that's perfect for that.
I guess handouts at the primaries probably wouldn't be cool. Just joking.
Okay, good ideas.
Let me see.
Is there
I
anything-
think that unless you wanted to say anything about, the other thing I thought about women's club, like
Yes.
if there are any women's clubs, anybody?
There are.
Portsmouth City Women's
We all
Club,
look
the
at
Portsmouth City Women's
Jennifer.
Club.
So kind of think about that if they're in.
Yeah,
Does anybody here belong to that?
I do,
You do? How often do you do programming?
once a month,
Okay.
the first Thursday of every month.
Oh, well, that would be.
So I don't know what the upcoming program is, but I will, on
Yeah.
my note, I will say, I'll ask.
And I do think in all of these, we would not be doing a hard ask. We would
No.
be talking about public art in Portsmouth, what's coming up, what we're
I-
raising,
The
we're
next
raising
project.
money for the next project.
Yeah, I think that would be interesting, especially if once we get it,
Yeah,
then it's like, there's something to see. And I think that might be a really interesting one to do.
yeah.
Okay.
That'd
and
be
they're a
great.
very generous group.
They are. They, when you ask, they give,
Good. Very good.
especially jackets and books.
And scholarships.
Exactly.
The other thing I would add about Nevi, Sean and I had, I thought, a very good meeting with DPW where we were able to talk through both this and the decorative bench and some of the real nitty gritty about how things get fastened. And Anthony was there with us, which was great because he could take from it what he needs to do on his end and vice versa. I don't know if Peter's had a chance yet to talk with engineering, but DPW understands that they're really gonna subcontract, we'll pay for it to handle the engineering part of it. The bad news and the realistic news probably that Peter provided is that probably the estimates are higher than what Anthony had gotten about a year ago for what it will be, so.
And there will not have to be a New Hampshire Department of Environmental for the bench.
For the bench,
So only, there won't be digging per se. Anytime you dig near the water, the state gets involved. So they only have to be involved in nebbing, because there won't be digging there.
which is a more involved process than you might imagine. The decorative bench, we received the initial payment from Bob Thorson, which is the kickoff for the contract for the decorative bench. And so I think we're in good shape there. We've crafted a letter with Bob's endorsement that we'll use to send out to some people who knew Sue who might want to donate for the remaining portion.
Did you see that Bob is gonna be at the New Hampshire
I
Art?
was gonna say,
Yes.
solo show.
When does that open, Lenny?
The reception is October 2nd.
Oh, I'm so glad you brought that up.
Uh,
It's a retrospective of his career. And there's a book that he's done with it as well.
He's been working on that book for a long time.
I have a copy. I'm reading it.
Oh, you're reading it?
He gave me a copy.
Special.
I went to the book launch.
So, the Bon Mall meeting, I know several of you went to it. I don't know if there are any takeaways, anything that people have thought about based on it, or questions you want to ask if you didn't go. You might have seen pieces in the paper about it. I thought that people received it pretty well. I think the audience, there was a good audience there, a lot of merchants from downtown.
I think it's all good news for them.
Yeah, it brings
You know, I
more
think it's gonna be
people.
really attractive and bring more people to their businesses.
Lit at night.
And lit,
Mhm.
yes.
Mhm.
It'll be good for that whole part of the city.
I mean, there were lots of questions, but I think they answered them well, and I don't think there was any, I didn't hear any grumbling on my way out the door.
Right. I will add a little grumble. And just that I think the plans for public art are a little bit unrealistic in that it's not easy to place temporary public art in a public spot that without disturbing what you just put down.
Mhm.
So the idea of having temporary art there is an interesting one and a good one, but it may or may not come to pass. Even the LGBTQ, and I talked to Terrence about this because they're going out to bid the middle of next month for the idea construction begins as soon as the ground can handle it in the spring. And so we kind of have to know where things are going to be placed. I mean, as you all know, with the public art things that this committee has done, there's so much about infrastructure. So what we don't want to do is just have them put down the pavement and then we decide, oh no, we need 6-foot posts underground in this area. So we kind of have to work that hand in hand. And it's unrealistic to me to think that later on, you're going to easily do that. Now, the reason I feel okay about that is we've got the Sant'Arcangelo gift going there. The arch is on one side of the street. There are murals going to be going in on the Novacure building, and we have the LGBTQ. And to me, that feels, for that area,
It's like an art walk. It's like
it'll be an art
Yeah,
walk.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so I don't, I like the enthusiasm that Public Works has to enliven it with public art, but I'm not sure that we're going to see much more than what we already know is gonna go there.
Yeah, it's just a busy spot. I mean, there are gonna be tables out there, there are gonna be
Yeah.
merchandise.
Full little stage,
Music
right?
stage.
Little stage.
Yeah.
You don't want to overwhelm it to the point
No.
where people get
Right.
lost.
Are they still doing the glass panels
No
separating?
glass, no glass.
No, I think that.
It's going to be instead, I believe it's made of steel, colored interwoven ribbon.
That's art like.
It's art
Yes.
like, that's also art like. Yes, I think it'll be quite nice. And that'll go the length of the parking lot.
It's already pretty busy.
So,
And all the people.
and Stephanie's here to bring us up to date on Sant Arcangelo.
Yes, as your liaison with the Sister City Committee, there was discussion, a little bit of discussion at the last meeting that I couldn't make, but saw on Zoom. There's a letter that has gone from the mayor thanking the mayor of Sant'Arcangelo for the gift, et cetera, because we haven't talked to them since they were here in the spring. Christine Fries who is the technical staff liaison to the committee, is going to be in communication with Sant'Arcangelo and Tiziano when she's back on the 31st, I think is when she gets back to the office. And in the meantime, or subsequent to that, the mayor and possibly Tiziano are coming here again on
Okay.
October 10th.
October 10th.
Actually here, I think a little before, but we're with students at the high school. And the plan is for a reception at the library on the 10th, which is a Saturday midday. So that's where we are there. And then Chris and I had a little bit of an offline conversation, as has the Sister City Committee, about a reciprocal gift. And the thought from the Sister City folks is that when we go there, we should bring something or promise something the way they did. And the committee is thinking a public art piece. So if you follow Sant'Arcangelo on Facebook, they're constantly showing wonderful street festivals and their fountain lit up at night and all kinds of wonderful things. So something creative, maybe from Terrence, Councillor Blaylock, half in jest, wholly in earnest, said, how about one of our Portsmouth streetlights, like the ones out here in the parking lot that are technically City of Portsmouth lights, but that may be as crazy as we all agree that it might be, but it's that kind of idea. So, and without dictating anything, and the committee is going to continue to think about creative ideas, but as park, you
We should think
absolutely
about it.
should weigh in.
You mentioned
Yeah.
going there. What is the timing of that?
We don't have any specific date. It's just Christine in particular is very anxious. She's been to Sant'Arcangelo.
Spell that.
Sant'Arcangelo.
It's in the.
And it's in the agenda too.
I was desperately
She's
looking for.
testing my
There it is.
memory.
Very good.
So, yeah, so nothing formal, but there's interest in going. It would be a self-funded trip for Sister City Committee members, but yeah.
And we were able to get, we asked Terrence, because could you give us specific questions that DPW would need for
Right.
installation?
And
He
that's
gave
what Christine has from you to send
a
them.
really good list of like
That's great.
10 technical questions that we need to have answered. So I think we're on the move with this now, getting it close. And I realized in retrospect, those may not be questions that Tiziano, the artist, can answer.
But the fabricator, every time I read this proposal, I learn something new, which is sort of distressing. But because it's been there all along, the fabricator is actually in Naples. the whole idea of these luminaria is are distinctive, a signature thing for Sant'Arcangelo, but they're not made in Sant'Arcangelo. Poet is, but the fabricators at Naples, so.
Where is Sant'Arcangelo located?
It's middle, so if Rome is the midpoint, north of that, it's Sant'Arcangelo di Romagna. The province is Romagna, which is, I think Florence is further north than that. I'm gonna say Romagna is kind of between Florence and Rome.
Oh, thank you, Stephanie, that's helpful.
And the other thought that came up with the committee is that when Mayor Sacchetti is here in October, that we might arrange in advance for once to have a photograph of the bench at the Sheraton with all the names, matted frame to present
Oh,
to
that'd
the
be
mayor.
nice.
So that kind of idea of all those family names.
Yeah.
You know, maybe we give them a bench, just like ours. I just thought of that, but I think that's the huge connection, because there are Farinis and Passerisis and all the names you're familiar with here are there, so.
Good,
To be
Okay.
continued.
Two features,
to be continued, right?
as always.
But actually coming up, because we think of
Yeah.
it, they're going out to bid
So
in
exciting.
like 3 weeks, so. Lower State Street, the art in Lower State Street. Not for decision right now, but for us to think about. Once people started making a fuss about the removal of
The head.
the head.
It's been the talk of Facebook.
And the lilacs.
Yeah, people.
And I
are upset
remember
about that.
how we were so
I think the head was more.
sure that those lilacs should be removed and.
Well, I think they were kind of at the end of their
Yeah,
life.
they were,
I mean, and if you've ever had lilacs, you know they do have a life.
anyway,
And there was issue on how they hid things, I think.
Right.
yeah, that's what I know, and it was,
Yeah,
but reading
yeah.
the comments, well, certainly about the head, but
Right.
Yeah.
which is more serious, I mean, more of a, I don't know.
Well, it's more of our issue
It's more of
because,
our issue.
Yeah.
because in our ordinance, we're charged with making decisions about deaccessioning or disposition. So,
Question about
yeah,
that. Do we have to deaccession it? Is there anywhere else we can place it?
well, that's what
Yeah, yes.
that's the reason for bringing it up, that this committee should think about. But when a piece of art gets removed, we need to make some recommendations about where it goes, what happens to it. And so not to decide tonight, but that's what I thought we should think about. And I don't know if anybody has any immediate thoughts. Okay.
I do have some immediate thoughts.
I do too.
But my immediate thoughts are that we have a lot of public art in the center of the community. We have lovely public medians in places like Maple Haven and Elwyn Park that don't have public art. And so I think that that's a real consideration, is putting a piece of art somewhere in those public spaces.
Or the park like in Atlantic Heights or other.
Yeah, the Lincoln
Yeah,
Heights,
yeah.
that's what I was thinking. So we had the same thought, somewhere that's still public that people see it, but not necessarily city center.
And what do we know about it? Like the
Well-
artist and everything? Because I wonder if there's anything like a connection with it that would be.
I don't, I asked Terrence and he,
Yes, but it's not correct information.
it's not correct. Terrence has traced that down to a man named Stephen Lee. Who, and he assures me that this is true. Because there's so much mythology about that little park. But I know no more than that.
Yeah, we need to-
And it's just a generic female head, it's not.
Correct.
Right, it's not anybody particular that would give us a clue as to where it should go.
To echo what Kate and Robin said, in even earlier meetings when we've talked about where to put different things, I said, what about underserved communities, places where, you know, I mean, downtown is where a lot of people congregate, but then there's other community pockets that maybe don't have as many trees or don't have as many amenities or don't have as much art, and to uplift underserved communities.
So let's plan to give the city council a short list of choices. Okay,
And I don't know if Stephen Lee is still around, but there's an article about him in Seacoast Online. He was a mason and artist.
Yeah.
And it says that he's the artist for the head in J. Smith Park. So,
That was 2019.
yeah, so
Taking a fall.
right, it might be worth a conversation with him as well.
Yeah.
try to figure that out.
You can come to the rededication.
Stephen Lee.
Oh my
Stephen
God, that
Lee.
is him. That is who I was thinking of.
Does somebody want to take that on and try to sleuth that and have that conversation?
Yeah, I
I
don't
know,
mind.
well,
Go ahead.
I know Terrence has spoken to him.
Okay,
And what I gleaned from that was he would like it not to be in a warehouse somewhere.
Yeah,
right,
exactly.
sure.
Exactly.
So
Do you want me to connect with Terrence and
Sure.
get some more information and just go from there?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we can, I mean, I assume right now it's in the custody of DPW.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think if I would just say if Park wants to let DPW know that this is our charge and we're gonna handle it, then the sooner that DPW knows that, the better.
That's good. Do you want me to email you something like that?
Sure. Yeah, because yes, because this is a new topic that will.
We
it's
haven't
not
done
on-
it before.
No, I know, but
Wow.
DPW was doing a thing.
That's good.
So, good, are you still talking about the park?
Anything more in it?
Well, just that the Lower State Street Park is a city park,
Right.
right? So DPW is working with Terrence on, because once the new bust is in there, it will be the city's responsibility.
To keep it up.
And therefore the installation must be safe so as not to fall on anybody, because that would be a city liability. Not a J. Smith, not a Terrence, not anybody. So DPW is, very focused on what the end result is. I'll just say that.
Are you saying like,
Like there's something
they're
else.
concerned that something may happen, or they're working with Terrence to
Working with
secure
Terrence-
it
yeah,
better?
Working with Terrence, but at the end of the day, right, this is gonna be, it's a donation it's gonna be
It is.
city public
property.
art on city property,
Right.
city liability. And so they are expressing the need to make sure that it is safe
Secure.
and I'm not even, and I don't even know if it's gonna require engineering, but it may.
It may.
So there's just some sensitivity around
Right.
putting it out there and not having a problem.
But all of our public art is,
Yes, but not all of them can fall on a child or a dog.
right, I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would think that
So,
DPW would allow that to happen, but.
I had a specific question around the J. Smith sculpture and the height. Because initially it was
Because we've
supposed to be
used
kind
that
of low,
before.
and we asked for it to be higher because it would be odd to have his face lower than.
My understand, that's part of the engineering of what is it gonna be on, how is it gonna be fastened, all the things we're learning about.
Yes.
These engineering questions.
Can you remind me how tall the statue is?
The head.
Gosh, I thought it was like, 24, 36 inches. It wasn't that high. I mean, it's not that
So it's
big.
gonna need to be on something.
It has to be on something.
What was the female head on?
Like a cement block or something,
It was,
wasn't
yes, and I don't even know if it was fastened.
it? Either I never touched it.
Yeah.
Right, so these are the things as we move forward.
And the same with the new head then, the female head, the blue head, whatever we wanna call it. If we decide to put it somewhere, we'll have to work with
Absolutely.
DPW on same
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Even though we apparently never worried about it before.
In the
It's
same
good to worry.
in a corner with a rose bush around it? Do we want it just the female head out of that park altogether.
Well, it's going to be, it's removed and it will be, and it's going to be out. I mean, it's not coming back.
There's only
Because the
room.
Jay Smith
Piece of
piece
land.
will be.
Yeah, but it's not, it's pretty, like at first I thought that was
I would-
built up.
I would just encourage DPW, if it's possible, to, think about what the art looks like beyond the safety issues, because the safety issues are not very different at a 4-foot height versus or 3-foot height versus a 5-foot height. If it's secured to the same kind of granite, which is what they'd suggested initially, was a granite stone.
Stone.
Yeah, and so I don't think the safety issues are that significant either way. I mean, they're gonna be the same essentially, so.
I'm thinking the ferry that we have, it's not that much different because that's accessible to people and it's on something and
That's wooden though, and it
Right.
has a different.
that's true, it is one, yeah.
And actually, if you've looked at it recently,
Oh, it's
the coleus have grown
I have.
almost so that you can't even see it.
Right, it's really
Which is
funny.
interesting.
Oh, it's beautiful.
It does. It makes a
It
real
feels like so natural.
little, yeah, exactly.
In the
It looks like it
woods.
just emerged. Okay, trustees of trust funds templates, I think we've worked this out. It's really almost more for you, Kate, to make sure that when the trustees have developed a fairly lengthy format for how they want contract payments to be described such that they can be dispersed from the funds. And since we're the biggest disperser of funds, it seems, it really is, it rests now with when the council accepts something, a fairly detailed motion is what it is, of what's been authorized, so that when it gets to the trustees, we don't have that for like this next payment for Anthony, but we'll work that out with legal, that there'll be no question from the trustees that city council has authorized the payments once the city manager has signed off.
Our last motion was very elaborate
Yeah.
in this regard, to make sure that there was no question that this is what the council was voting to do.
Yeah.
So, I'll keep watching for that.
Yes, and it should make things easier from now on, because as you know, we've had to sometimes go back to the council or delay. The trustees only meet once a month, so even in the case like, in July, we approved the NEBI. We have the invoice now from Anthony. We'd like to be able to pay that by September. If we miss that deadline, it'll be another month. So if we can get it in these forms they want, we're better off. Ernie and I have been talking to people for our 2 vacancies, and we have 2 really good candidates who hopefully will put their applications in. And now we'll have a 3rd at the end of the year when Nancy's term ends. And to your question about terms, Kate brought up a couple meetings ago, and Attorney Suzanne Woodland recently contacted us about terms, because it's time for the mayor to reappoint all of us. And as I remember, all of you were interested in that, and you said it didn't matter a 2 or 3 year term. So those terms are going to be staggered. And Kate, the question I have is, I believe we all need to fill out forms for reappointment.
You will need to fill out reappointment forms.
Are they
They're
right
simple
on?
now. They're online now.
But we sent, it just starts in the city clerk's office.
Okay.
And it'll trigger.
City clerk's office, just go to that on the.
They'll reach out to
It'll
you.
send you an
Perfect.
email triggering
That's your
your
opportunity
need
to not.
to fill out the form, but don't miss it.
Yeah,
If it comes to you, because you don't want the clerk to go, oh, well, there's another vacancy,
yeah,
Right,
and advertise it. So, because now we have a new form where you can check a box that says I'm reapplying.
okay.
It makes it a little easier, frankly, and I've talked to Suzanne Woodland a little bit about this. What we will do is we will just slate people into 2 or 3 year terms and so then the mayor, what the mayor will do is appoint people to 2 year term or a 3 year term.
And then at the
That'll
end of
fix
that. yeah,
any stagger.
At the end of that term, you'll get another
Yeah.
request to re-up. So the 2 or 3 doesn't matter. It doesn't
Yeah,
Okay,
materially change it. It's just
Yeah,
when you
that's
get
good.
the next letter.
do we have term limits?
No,
No.
not in our ordinance. You know, it's interesting because when we wrote the ordinance initially, there was a lot of discussion around this and I was under the impression that we put it in and we didn't. So
Yeah.
no, we don't actually. Initially, we had discussed having a 2 term limit, but it didn't make it into the ordinance.
okay. So is this eminent, Kate, or?
Yes, anytime if the committee's ready to do that, I will go ahead and talk to the clerk's office. Probably not until after the first week of September, after the primary election.
Okay.
She's really busy right now doing training.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
All right. We have recently learned that our current year CIP monies have been or are being transferred to the trust. So that means that we have $75,000 of CIP monies in our trust. And I put in an application for next year. The applications are due in a couple of weeks, and requested another 25,000 with the idea that we will be spending in the coming year for installation of NEVI, the bench, or other possible things, so that
The Fort Tree Island, are we still
Well,
moving
we're doing
on that?
Nope, all set then.
Oh,
No
okay.
request coming to park.
okay, good.
Oh, okay.
But it's great to have that money.
Mhm.
Hanover Garage, if you go on the website as of today, our request, our RFP is in the procurement.
Oh, wow.
And the way you find it is to go to the finance department and look under procurement.
Okay,
And you'll see the Hanover Garage RFP.
okay.
So very exciting. It
I
was
have
a-
somebody who's interested. Has anybody seen the wine bar in Kittery and seen that mural?
beautiful.
So she's a potential application.
Good. So Ernie has written a press release, which now that we have this posted, we'll start
Great.
putting that in process so that we get some local
Awesome.
publicity. We have sent it, I found, we have our previous list. And then I did some work on muralists and ended up with about 25 different New England muralists. So we're sending this pretty widely, but don't hesitate to anybody that you know, no problem in getting duplicates. Send them to this posted
Okay.
procurement. So you can, look at, it was a good process to go through. It's very professional looking. And what you'll see is they can ask questions and then answers get posted. And everybody who is on the list gets a notification when answers are posted. So it's a very responsive process.
Well, I'm sorry. I'm very happy to hear that Ernie's gonna have something in the press, because I've had comments, and it seems like it's the same people, but who feel like they go to the website and they can't even find park. Like, it's not like we're on the front page of the city
Right.
website. You have to
Yeah.
go to committees, and then you have to go
Yeah.
to, so.
Or you use search terms, which is what I do all the time for anything, because
Because they keep saying, like, how are we supposed to know there's an RFP out there? And I said, well, like, yeah, I'm not gonna not.
but the one important thing is anybody can also ask to be on the procurement list in the category of art or design. You can name your category. Once you're on the list, you'll automatically get every opportunity.
And I think we should add, like, get the name of this
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes.
artist who
Yep.
did because we can add it to our list.
Absolutely.
Well, and she'll now, if she goes to that, she'll be asked to
Yeah.
register and get her name onto the list. So we can evolve more people that way.
Cause like, when we did the flash vote, I went through the comments and picked, some people had recommended mural artists. And I pulled those names and added them. I mean, we've really, and Chris worked really hard,
Yeah.
you know, we've really worked hard on pulling together that list.
But there
Cause
are-
it's good to reach them directly.
The other thing, compared to like sculpture, there are many muralists.
Mm.
And because, you know, a lot of towns in New England have really done a lot. with
Yeah,
murals.
a lot.
So the more publicity
Yeah.
and to get, and encourage anybody to sign up, because I think that will save us in the long run.
2 years ago, my son in California sent me for Christmas to go on a tour of the Boston murals. It was so much fun. I had no idea there was so many places, and we got to do our own graffiti in this graffiti island. And it was amazing how much there was. And I wish I wasn't on the committee then, or I would have been writing down names if I.
Yeah.
So September 14th is the walkthrough. Anybody is invited to come. It'll be at the High Hanover Garage at 10. And so you know, that's noted right in the procurement. Encourage anybody to go to that. We'll be documenting that. Ella Frida, who runs the procurement, mentioned to us, we should not be answering questions at that point, but we should be taking them down and then posting the answers so that everybody fairly
That's a good idea.
gets them. Yes, Karen,
Where are we meeting, in the garage or?
at the Hanover Street entrance.
Okay.
By the office.
By the office?
So, if everything goes right, we'll be reviewing them, and there's a workaround that will allow us to review them online. Through Sean's email. So October like 13th through 15th, if you can, I carve out a little time we can individually be reviewing them online. We'll craft a rating sheet that then you can be filling in. And well, I think it's a little early to tell. We'll then want to come together either on the 16th or the 19th for a discussion. And we can do that by Zoom as well as in person. So I think maybe what we'll do is just do a little poll of all of you of available times on those days so we can just find the options. If you can't make it, you can still send your votes in. People can represent you in the discussion.
I can't make the September walkthrough because I'll be in France, but I can make all the October stuff.
I will have challenges for those October dates. There is a city council meeting, one of them, and then we're on the 13th. And then I have commitments the 15th, but I'm not part of the decision making.
Right.
So I'm fine with you moving forward without me being there.
Being able to read, but you might attend the discussions even if you
Exactly.
haven't rated.
Exactly.
And Beth, as I remember.
Same thing,
You'll
yeah.
do the same.
I want to be part of the discussion, but I can't vote.
Yeah. So for that end, we want to add some additional reviewers. Obviously, Mike Cassad from the garage who met with us, critical person to have. And we thought we might ask Corin, since he has participated in our public
That's a good
art.
idea.
And possibly Joe Almeida, who is the city's facilities director. And then we were talking about some downtown. A couple of
Maybe
downtown
businesses that
people.
are
Yeah.
like
Yes.
right there.
And Ernie suggested John Acar,
Oh, yeah.
who I think would be
Yeah.
a good suggestion.
It's a really good suggestion.
We had a student last time that joined us. That
We
was a
had a
good
student.
addition.
think it's a nice idea to have a student.
I wonder if Terrence could recommend a student,
Oh.
because he's gonna be working with those students as part of the grant.
Right.
And it would be a wonderful experience
As
for
long
them.
as he's not applying
Yes.
Yeah.
to do the mural. You know, that would be an
Yes,
awkward.
yes.
But let's ask.
Are any of our art teachers, any of them live in Portsmouth? Maybe an interest, or if they have to live in
Do
Portsmouth.
they have to live in Portsmouth?
I don't know.
They don't have to live
Don't
in
think they
Portsmouth to
have
be
to
part
for
of the
this,
review
because we
process.
had, Leah from UNH.
Leah Woods.
Yeah.
Good way to get.
Yeah.
Great to ask Anna
Yeah.
Nuttall.
Yeah. Maybe we,
Yeah, or comment or whatever. What about Wendy Clement at Kennedy Gallery?
and Wendy would be
Wendy.
good too.
Amanda Kid Kessler from New Hampshire Art
And
Association.
Amanda would be good.
She's
yeah,
the executive.
We know that not everybody will be available, so I think that's good because it's a pretty tight time frame. So this is a great list. Okay. Good.
Maybe also talk about somebody from the chamber, like
Oh, Ben,
Oprah, Ben.
we said we would ask Ben.
Yeah. You might not have somebody on this.
Yeah.
Well, John Ekar is currently
He's
President.
chamber.
Yeah.
Yeah.
board. And then there's Hope,
Hope.
who's
Hope,
serves on the Arts
yes.
and Cultural Commission.
Yeah.
Yeah, Hope is great.
I can backtrack just a half a step. When you were talking about people asking to be on the procurement list, because then they would automatically get RFPs. NHAA sends out a lot of requests from other towns, libraries, town halls, saying there's a request from, sometimes it's a medical center, they're looking for muralists. So if you were to put them on that procurement list, am I saying it right?
Oh, how that works. I mean.
Distribute it
we
among
put-
all.
We put them on our list because they were on our list. So everybody like that got the other
Okay.
things already has it. So
Okay.
that's an interesting question. We'll have to ask Elfrida if groups like that. I don't see why not. And
And then they
They're
can send it out to
nonprofit.
their.
whether she
Yeah.
automatically enrolls them now.
We get so many things sent to us.
Sure,
That I get in my inbox that,
sure.
you know, a women's shelter or a hospital or a library is looking for something.
Given the number of muralists in New England and the scale of just the amount of money we have to spend, I think we will get a lot of applications. So
And murals aren't as a heavy lift to say, you know.
That's right.
So I think you're right. I think.
So we may, you know, we may not be able to meet our timelines. And after the deadline, the rest are our internal timelines, which we're trying to meet. We may need to extend our time for review, just based on the numbers that we get.
Are we offering any technical support to the artists, for example, use of a DPW lift or anything like that, for installation? I'm asking because it means more money for art, less money for.
Yeah, we have said that the artist should include all costs, but the installation would be done in cooperation with DPW.
Okay.
So it's a little ambiguous.
So they might supply like ladders and.
Sure.
Support like that.
Yes.
Okay. But exciting, and we can talk a little bit more about it. In September, we can have an update on, you know, what are we getting? Where are we? What kind of questions are they asking? Robin, public art tours.
Okay, I have a bunch of information. Hope and I spent a whole morning going around the whole city, looking for artwork. We found stuff that we didn't even know existed, that I don't even think is in our list. So I think I mentioned before that we've decided there's kind of 3 key places. Well, Bohanko Park, Foundry Garage area kind of go together. That should be one because we now have all that Italian artwork.
Right.
And then walking down those streets, I mean, the Foundry Garage has all those photos.
Yes.
Different places and the artists' names are right there. And then we found some other bits and pieces of artwork just that I'd never noticed before. I don't know if people are familiar with the Topos Nostros.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
Christian.
That was
yes.
really cool to see that, and there's a name of the artist is
Yeah.
right there, so we've,
Before you joined our,
Garage.
oh,
right
before
across
you
from the
joined our
garage.
committee, the artist had presented another thing to us.
oh, okay. It was just kind of tucked away there. By the Foundry Garage, just.
It's,
Lovely.
it's David Adams.
Okay, it is, okay.
It's
But
David
I-
Adams Garage.
If you give me all of those, I was gonna make a new inventory to-do list.
You don't see it because you have to be going out of the Foundry,
Yes,
of the
that
street in
direction,
front of Foundry,
right,
not into
exactly.
it.
But there's a lot of art, and then Terrence's piece in front, so it just seemed that Bohenko Park and Foundry Garage kind of like maybe would be one area. We also decided, and this is for us as a group, but having maybe one trifold for all, so there'd be Art Walk 1, Art Walk 2, Art Walk 3,
Mhm.
instead of 3 different. And that
Sure.
way one person could pick up one, and it wouldn't be comprehensive, but there would be a QR code that says something like, for more information, to see more artwork, to get a complete list, please go here. So that's what we're kind of leaning towards, because having 3 would be kind of bulky.
Yeah.
The other thing is,
What's your third one, Prescott?
so
Is that it?
Prescott Park and Pierce Island, Fort Tree Island, and then downtown.
Wait, they're two different ones.
Prescott Park and Pierce
Island.
Prescott Park, Pierce Island, Fort Tree Island is one. Foundry Garage and Bohenko Park is another, and downtown.
Got it.
3 kind of distinct
That's-
areas. And when we actually drove and got out of our car and walked, and those made sense. It really made sense.
Uh-huh.
Kind of all 3 are walkable, 3 distinct places. And then the other thing, and Mark McNabb's walkway, is all that artwork in our
Right.
inventory? Yeah.
That's in our inventory.
Yeah.
Yes.
Some of it's a little bit on the.
I'm sure we miss.
Yeah, just kind of thinking that obviously we were part of downtown. The other thing is I think we should probably wait till spring to actually do something, because we've got the J. Smith Park. We've got the the Own and Judge mural was just put up. We've got Hanover Garage coming. We've got the Nebby, we've got the bench. There's just a lot coming. So I think we
Yeah.
need to wait a little bit and make it a little bit more comprehensive. I spoke to the woman who designed this one, and she's interested in helping us out again. So I don't know what we need for as far as like a budget goes. Say we make 500 to start with. I don't know what the cost of that would be. And
Well, Hope can probably tell you, because the chamber does that type of thing. She can give you an estimate of.
yes, well, she said they get things printed, but they wouldn't design it.
Right, but I mean, she
Yeah.
can tell you what they
Yeah.
pay for it.
Yes, exactly. I was just thinking of paying the person to.
Yes,
do-
yes.
That's more of, yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And that could come out of our park.
Yeah.
Okay, it wouldn't be very much, I
Yeah.
don't think. The other thing that Hope and I talked quite a bit about is we sat in Bohenko Park for an hour. It is not that busy. And we're spending a lot of time, energy, money, resources to put art there. What can we do to activate that park? So I've been going, forgive me, I've been doing a little bit of a deep dive into park activation. If you had a friend visiting Portsmouth, what would make you say, hey, let's go to Bohenko Park? Or let's go to Bohenko Park because there's always something interesting to see, do, experience, participate in. I think it's the C. So is there some way we can work with the city to get some benches there, some picnic tables? That's like,
There are benches.
yeah, and they're just.
They're more for like viewing benches.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Does the city have access, do they have in their storage some picnic tables? I know they put them in various places, but I
Interesting
think if
question.
we had, because the people maybe that work within walking distance might decide to have lunch there. We literally sat there for an hour,
Well, now-
saw 2 walkers and 1 bike rider.
Yeah, to me, isn't that the kind of thing we should put in a CIP, a request for? Or is that's too small,
I
right?
think that's too small.
Okay,
And if there is an inventory of, I'll say, nice
Yeah,
picnic tables,
Yeah,
be redeployed,
yeah,
right.
and then
Yeah.
that's
that's a good idea.
better, I think that's the quickest distance between two
Yeah.
points.
And that's what I'm thinking, because they've moved them around quite a bit and they might have, even just two, I think would.
Yeah,
help.
just-
Yeah,
I'm recalling, Chris, maybe you weren't there, I'm recalling a conversation with Corin
oh, good,
where he thought that was a great idea.
okay,
Oh,
So that's the first hurdle.
great.
okay, great.
Okay.
Maybe a suggestion is partnering with an organization like PMAC, for instance, to do student concerts there.
That is my next, you are on, that's on my list is, let's see if we can activate. Could we have partner with the library and do poetry readings? Could we partner with PMAC and have some student concerts? And could we have, some sort of activities? My next thing is I know parking is an issue. We
Yeah.
also walked over to Albacore.
Yeah.
Albacore has like 200 parking
We know,
spaces.
but that's, the city has dealt with that before.
Oh.
It's a little bit of a sensitive issue.
But if things were in the evening when Albacore was closed,
You have to cross that hall.
Yeah, I think,
But there's
There's a
lights
light.
there,
That's a big problem.
there's walking, there's.
Activate
Yeah,
the
the
light.
walking, yeah, it's not, it's really not, it's not that bad at all.
yeah,
I
walk
think-
walk from Albacore to the,
oh,
To
yeah,
walk from
Oh, no, we
Albacore to
did
the
that.
park,
No.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think, I always thought partnering more with the Albacore, like having these available, because like families visiting there, that you can come down and get some maritime history and some art and, bring your lunch. I don't know what they
Right.
do.
there's a newer director there, so their old director, I think Patty, was not really welcoming.
that's right.
But they do have a new person.
I was going to say on the parking issue, there is a cut-in next to the park, so there are some designated parking spots at that street, that
Yes.
street. And there's city, like you can park anywhere along that street. And then across the street, the reason we haven't proceeded yet is that that project is going in.
Yeah.
Right.
There is city space there.
Yeah.
For down the road, developing potentially parking
Oh,
across
and
the
they've
street
already
there.
agreed to do
Yeah,
that.
we've talked.
Yeah.
They just have to wait until the construction is done.
Right.
That's right. There's not specifically funding set aside yet in the
Sure.
CIP
But
for
it's
that,
just striping it.
it's just striping it and making it easy to park. So that is
So
coming.
that might not be an issue moving forward.
That's right.
Right.
And when I went to Albacore, all those parking spaces that are along like kind of the woods there. I'm not sure I've ever seen car, I mean, unless they had a big event like we had last year at
Yeah,
with the
you'd be
chamber.
okay to park there.
Yeah, it would be, I think, impossible for Albacore to use all those spaces. So maybe as we get closer, that could be a conversation that we can have. But I just think activating that space, I think once people go there and see that there's small things going on, it can grow.
Robin, I just happen to have had a slew of overnight visitors visiting it from out of state, and I drove them around to different places. Of course, we walked around Prescott Park and Pierce Island. We drove by Bohanko Park.
That's what I'm saying.
It's not, it doesn't look user friendly to say, well, we're gonna take a left here, go up to Albacore, and then you're gonna cross this really busy double lane street.
But I will say that the crossing
Oh,
works
it's a piece of
seamlessly.
cake.
It really works well. And
Because
they
it's,
flashes and everything.
yeah, and people can also cross to the middle if they're uncomfortable,
And
and then
as we-
cross to the
right.
next piece.
And as we get closer, we can have some signage, and I do think if people saw picnic tables there or
Yeah.
once we have Nebby and the bench, I think it's going to be more enticing. So I was just thinking in that direction of activation.
I think a huge part of what it's gonna improve this park is just the landscaping growing in some, having
Yes.
real trees. I mean, right now the trees are
That's true.
starting to grow, but
Mhm.
having taller trees will make it feel like a park.
Yeah.
Right.
It's beautifully landscaped. They take,
Yeah.
I mean, Hope and I
Very
walked around and we
cute.
sat, it is absolutely beautiful. And so that's why the two of us were really like, wow, how can we get people to come here? It's so pretty.
We can build us some tables.
Oh, yeah.
We're looking for a Rotary
Rotary
project.
Rotary could build tables.
We could build tables.
Yeah,
Maybe we can put that-
Rotary has this fund, the William Cash Fund, and in order to access it, you have to have a project that's gonna involve Rotarians, hands-on, painting or that kind of thing. So we've kind of reached out to Corin to say, do you have any suggestions? But that's a great idea.
That's a great idea.
This is maybe, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
This may be a silly little thing, but to get, families go there with kids, because you got the bridge, you got the river, all the different, all the ships coming in and out. What about, one of those things you stand on and there's the viewfinder and a telescope? That you can.
Yeah, I don't know what the
something that is
process is to
playful,
do
that-
something like that.
Like
but-
that kids can like.
But I also think, when you said PMAC, I was thinking maybe we could have a night of games there where there's, beanhole or there's croquet, or maybe there's a place where we could have some
Well,
games that
the
people could-
the people to talk with that about is the recreation department, because they're very creative.
Yeah, and I'm sure you've seen that in other cities. They have big chess things.
Yes.
This is one of the things. I just went to Washington DC recently. I went to college there, so I knew the parks really well, and to see it's a different city than it was 10 years ago, because all the little parks have furniture for people to sit in, and it's not like a wooden bench, which is uncomfortable. It's like comfortable lawn furniture, comfortable chairs, and then the
Yes.
city comes and locks them up at night.
Mm.
But it's like there are people everywhere in these parks because there are all these great places to sit.
That's actually the number one thing when you look up activation for parks is, are there places to sit? That's exactly right.
It made all the difference in the world. These parks that were never utilized are
Right.
completely full of people.
Right. And like
So-
you said, with kids, maybe working with the rec department, and every summer they bring out a bunch of things. So
Yeah.
anything creative that we can think of, partnering with PMAC, partnering with the rec department, anything we can think of.
I think the rec department is a good first stop because
The
they,
library summer reading.
Mhm.
They do it
Yeah.
different places.
Yes.
Now, what are the rules? Like if someone wants to use the park, do they have to go through the city council, right? Or
To use it for a private event, to
Yeah.
exclude the public from walking through their event, yes.
okay.
But if you just wanted
You're
to,
just claiming you're having a picnic, you don't need.
Okay,
What-
okay,
what
so
if-
if you're having a concert, you
Yeah.
wouldn't need.
well, what about
Uh,
that?
I'd
We have to figure that out.
Because I think it was at the February meeting, on the city council meeting, on the agenda was the Maeve cocktail band.
Mhm.
She wanted to do something in Pohanko Gateway Park. And I don't know whatever happened about that.
So no
It was a no because, she wanted. what did she want?
Alcohol,
alcohol.
alcohol.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
The chamber, that was the exception.
I was just gonna say we had. So the
But
other
if-
thing I was
if-
thinking,
If things went through the rec department, that would make permitting
If it was a
easier.
city sponsored
So-
event,
right,
sure. that's
You know,
not an issue.
or like say the city so the rec department even does something with PMAC to have youth, then that would be an easy way to go, I think.
so this is the other thing that we thought of, and this is definitely like a enforcement, but having a food truck. Wouldn't that
Honestly,
be fun?
That's the first thing I thought of.
It's like the
Yeah.
perfect space.
It's such a challenge, but there are a few approved vendors in the city.
Yes.
The question is, it's kind of this question of if you build it, will they come? Like,
Yeah.
so how often will the food truck sit there
That's
until
hard.
enough people?
No, you'd have to have an event surrounding the food truck and
That's
and
right.
and have,
It would have to be events.
it has to be events oriented, and that's a start. And
Yeah.
if people know and they get the information, I mean, everything is kind of baby steps, right?
I think
Yeah,
And that would be
Yeah.
a recommendation that had to come forward to the council for
Yeah.
consideration, whether or not that was allowed in that location.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for a
An
special
email.
event. For a special
love it.
event,
Yeah.
they are allowed. And we have had food trucks come in for like the community picnic and.
The community, that's the other, we didn't do the
Community
community picnic this year, right?
No.
So
No.
maybe that would be a great thing for
Not
next
yet.
year, is we do it at Bohenko Park instead of Leary Field.
I don't know if it's on the agenda for the rec department or not. I haven't seen anything, so I don't think we were doing it, but it's happened in September before.
It's not making it annual, I haven't heard it.
so too.
But it's an idea.
Yeah.
So anyways, that's the
Good
kind of things
idea.
we talked about. So
Good
what I'll do is
ideas.
I'll talk to this person and find out how much she charges an hour and get an
Yeah,
estimate.
just so we can.
Yep.
I know another good graphic designer from the Button Factory. That's all they're working on.
Well, she has a lot of this already, so I just figured it would be easy.
On your walk, Robin.
Yeah.
Did you notice, I think I think I sent an email to Chris, but maybe I'm wrong, maybe I meant to send one. But when I was taking some folks to see the Ona Judge mural, it's rippling. It's rippled in a lot of
Yes, I know,
places
the
that
artist knows that.
has some graffiti on it.
I didn't know the graffiti, but I know the artist knows about
The
the,
rippling.
yeah.
Someone had painted what I presume was spray paint, a five-pointed star, and then there was a white stripe down I think it got interrupted because there's this slash of paint, but the rippling was really pronounced. And in one point, there's like a fold that went all the way across.
Yeah,
Very sad.
That's been.
The rippling is important because that approach to hanging things is one that is likely to be used in other places. It's interesting that the Ruth Blay has never, but I believe that's applied direct.
It's by direct.
I mean, it's not painted, it's applied directly as opposed to the Ona Judge.
And it was supposed to have like a 10-year limit and we're already at year 3 or 4 or something, and it looks
It looks
fine, I
perfect.
know.
Yeah. Yeah,
I was distressed having just gone to the unveiling of it and then I've driven by it a bunch of times, but to walk up to it, the rippling is real noticeable.
I just want to say I love those ideas because it's something I've been thinking about a lot. I mean, how I usually think about it too is that Portsmouth is kind of expanding out that way,
It's
with the apartments.
Definitely.
And I think that that's gonna bring more traffic.
those apartments are gonna make a big difference.
Yeah, I think you're gonna see a lot more people coming and going. I don't know how many units are gonna be in there. And just everything back there. There's more homes, there's, cause I'm
Well,
out there all the
I
time.
also remember all the condos that are being built that are essentially across the street.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
I mean, all of a sudden, there are gonna be a couple hundred more people living right around that park. So the timing is good.
Yeah, I think so too. And so, yeah, and if we can figure out a way, even if we just have a handful of events, doesn't have to be
I love it.
extraordinary.
So I like the picnic table with DPW and with Rotary to see what we can get done there. And then I think a session with the rec
Yeah,
department. because
definitely.
Todd is so great to work with.
Yes,
and
yes, I agree.
see
And
if-
even a conversation with the library, maybe they have some programming. So I think the rec department and the library.
Maybe. Ernie, I was just thinking if DPW has in his picnic tables, maybe Rotary could look at ADA compliant.
Yes, because they already
Okay.
have them at a couple
That
of
would be
parks.
wonderful.
That
That would be
would be
great.
really good.
Yeah. Cause
That's an
that's
easy
we
part
need to
to-
access that William Cash, and I have an advocate on the committee that's ready to go to bat for us, so, and could be $10,000, so, I really wanna follow up on that, but you think it's okay to mention that to them now, or you wanna wait? and
Let me talk, I'm just
Okay.
thinking, as you're thinking about
Okay.
a project for Rotary.
Yeah.
They don't have to be exclusive, though. We can have a couple of the
That's what I'm
city benches
That's
and
what I'm
then the
saying.
nice
Sure.
ones that
That's what I'm
are
saying.
made.
I'm
Yeah.
saying if you're gonna build, like, I'm sure we don't have ADA, brand new ADA compliant picnic tables laying around, so if Rotary wants to donate a couple, that would
Yeah.
supplement what DPW has, and now you've got double the seating.
And I think what we really want is the hands-on job for them. They wanna come in and roll up their sleeves and,
Weeding.
and I would like the money to go towards this sculpture, but,
And we should talk to Albacore. I have a little bit of a relationship with them already. I mean, around a partnership. I mean, they could also do, if the rec department wanted to do a kids concert series
Right.
Yeah.
in the park
Yeah.
or kids fun activity series in the park and partner with the Albacore, that you had admission to the Albacore,
Yeah.
you know.
Exactly.
Marketing.
And then also if the Albacore knew we were coming out with
That's right.
brochure, we have their logo on there.
and we have their sculpture in there.
Yeah.
They're part of it.
Yeah, so
To
I
put their
know.
sculpture
I think
because it's
there's some
it's a
opportunity.
beautiful
Yeah.
sculpture.
And then what about painting the picnic tables the same color as Bob's bench? That might
Look nice, yeah.
pop too. I'm just throwing that out there, but because
Or I'm just thinking you might also have children's books, and I know the library in the past
Yeah.
has done like storybook walks.
Oh, that's a good
yes, they
idea.
have, yep,
So
yeah.
maybe you could tie in there.
yeah,
There could be a tie-in with the sculptures that we have.
yes.
Good.
Good, thank you all for
One
Stephanie,
thing
all
with
these
the
suggestions.
Albacore is that kiosk has all of that informational signage,
That's
which
right.
is a mitigation for the Albacore. It's really, the Albacore approved all of that information. It's mitigation for the replacement of the Sarah Mildred Long Bridge. So remind them that all that
It's all
informational
connected.
kiosk is their
Okay.
information.
You were not kidding.
Oh, and just one more thing I was gonna say also, in thinking about this, like, I don't think we should underestimate the power of driving by that park and
Mhm.
seeing the
That's
art
true.
in there and the landscaping.
Sure.
And, you know, that's gateway to the city when you look at how much traffic goes through there. And if you go back to what it used to look like.
Yeah.
And that's what people were going through as they were coming into Portsmouth. And now it's
That's actually a
Truly.
very important point, that to have public art that you can see by driving by it is
Right.
also a value.
I mean, that's when you have when you have, you know, a lot of communities
Yeah.
have artwork in the Rotary, and that's not not things that people are gonna go up and.
And if you're
That's-
driving into town and you see a bunch of things there, you might look for it somewhere and say, hey, how do I access that?
Mhm.
Okay, two more things. Mara and Lenny, we probably don't have time to do the in-depth discussion.
But I just want to can I raise before, I mean, I think we don't, and I
Yeah.
don't feel prepared to
Yeah,
engage fully, but I think, I mean, question that is on my mind is really like an upper level question as opposed to a nuts and bolts question, which is really what do we want this place to be? What kind of expectations do we have for that space? What artists in particular do we want to serve? How do, are they, artists who are well known around the region? Are they artists who aren't well known around the region? Are they really super established in their particular medium, or are they people who are experimenting with something else? And I think that that's one thing that's not, I mean, for me, as someone who's worked on the issue, it's not clear.
Can we
that-
include them all?
Well, of course we can, but I mean, so absolutely, but but I think you need to kind of have an idea of what kind of focus you want the space to be, because I think it's kind of impractical to say, okay, this is going to be a space for everybody. Okay, so then how do you decide who that everybody is? How do you reach them? How do you conceptualize, how do you work out the exhibitions you have? I mean, the ones we have right now, basically, the first one was really successful, but that's because, I mean, really, to give credit to Lenny, there are a lot of people, she has her finger on the pulse of, the current exhibition climate in this area, but, I
So
mean,
Maura, could it be theme oriented? So if
Well,
you had a
how do you-
theme, then
yeah,
obviously certain people would be attracted to that theme.
right.
but I think you're talking, and Robin, you said, could it be all? I think yes, but maybe there's some categories of all that would help a vision.
Yeah, I would be really cautious about saying all. And the reason I say this is that there are a lot of beginning artists that are just starting to exhibit. I don't think that's what this gallery is for. I think that they do things like they join New Hampshire Art Association, they submit pieces, they hope to get accepted. I think that there are other galleries who essentially help train them in this process. And that's what New Hampshire Art Association does. And helps them along. Essentially, it's educational submitting, I think, to them first and learning that process. And then I think this gallery is for more established artists who have been exhibiting before.
And that,
Because it's a lot to exhibit.
that's the kind of thing we should talk about in a
Right,
more extended
exactly.
discussion and put different perspectives on the table.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have pretty strong opinions on it, that it's, my understanding was that it was a space for Seacoast, in quotes, the greater Seacoast, either they lived here, worked here, or it was the focus of their artwork. Maybe they couldn't afford to live in town, but they did lots of paintings of either Portsmouth or the local area, including Kittery artists, et cetera. I think it would be wrong. I would like to have it open to all, and that we have either a theme or an opportunity, process by which they can apply and say, I've had multiple artists come up
But
to
even
me and
if
say,
they-
how can I have a show there?
Even Lenny, if they apply, we still have to have some criteria that allows us to exercise that vision.
But I think to say that we want to focus on emerging artists, we certainly want to support it. To Kate's point, there's avenues of way that emerging artists, student artists can build up their body of work before they're prepared to show.
Well, couldn't we have a show emerging artists? Another show could be student artists.
Which-
I'm just trying to be
Yeah. I mean,
creative.
for example, I'll just pick on NHAA because I know their protocol so well. Every year they have a show called
Sure.
Under 30.
Right.
And it's for emerging artists, and there's no jurying process other than looking at the work, making sure it's acceptable to the public. which
But
they're
we
pretty
might be
flexible.
able, just to make the work a little easier, we might be able to narrow it a little bit more and craft a clearer vision of what this is for compared to what other places are.
it
And that's
depends
my point. I don't want to try to duplicate what somebody else in town is already doing. And I don't think that that's the role of this gallery space. I think, the last thing we want to do is do something that New Hampshire Art Association already is doing and doing really well.
Excuse me.
So I think it should be different than that.
Yeah.
And the other point is artists that are extremely professional and very well established, who might live in Portsmouth and work in Portsmouth, they're in galleries all over the US. And so
Right.
Right.
like even getting like Kimberly Muse and Teresa McHugh and Darlene and Dustin Knight, they're in galleries all over. And I
Right.
sort of like said, please, 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 you're my buddies, you're my friends, do this. We want to kick this off and have it be fabulous. But they don't necessarily need us, they're already in
But if-
prestigious galleries, so
If you look at most
they were happy to be here.
artists like
but
that resumes, they will include things like this
They
happily.
were
on
very
their
happy to be
resumes.
here, but there's artists that are sort of in between that are
Right.
doing beautiful artwork who maybe don't have the name recognition
Yeah.
as much. But yet they've been juried into and are tested artists.
So I think we're gonna need to try to get some of this on
Yes.
paper.
Yes.
And because it'll help us then with the selection. Because faced with an all call,
Yeah, it's kind of.
then you're faced with how do we do that?
And I really do, I think we all agreed that, okay, we've done 2 invitationals. We still haven't seen how the second one's worked out, so.
I have a third idea for you, but
And that's what I'm thinking. So how many a year do we want to do?
Oh, well,
I think we can
we-
talk about that.
we-
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But we've talked about that, I mean, and,
Yeah.
there's not everybody agrees about how many should be done. But I think that, we all agree that an invitational is not the way to go moving forward. So, we have this one, there's a pause, we're gonna have the one starting in September. The next exhibit should be one that's not simply a pilot, something that's a little bit more, responds more to a clear set of criteria for showing
Yes.
art.
and that's what we've
Yes.
got to develop. And that doesn't mean that criteria might not be different when
Each
you do
time.
another show,
Yeah.
right? So you give some variety.
So it sounds like more discussion is needed.
But let me throw a completely different idea into it as an exhibit space. Pontine is celebrating its 50th anniversary in 2027. And looking for legacy opportunities. And of course, they have lots of artwork that has been created in the form of masks,
Ah,
scrolls,
puppet.
photographs, puppets,
Yeah.
set design. And that could be to change things up a little bit. They would be, I asked Greg about this, they would be happy, and of course Greg creates all these things, which would also be less work on you. They would be happy to
To put it
curate something
together.
as well.
That would be
And, but
awesome.
what is your, I mean, just thinking about that space, one of the very first things we all seemed to feel was that it wasn't a great space for three-dimensional
Well,
art.
because the masks, though, when you think of that hanging system,
Yeah.
oh, well,
Yeah, it's on the wall. I've talked
Yeah,
about.
it's on the
doing
wall.
Fabric
Yeah,
art.
3D on the wall.
Wooden art, like Leah Woods from UNH.
Oh, Leah's,
She
good
does
example.
Amazing
Yeah,
art, wooden artwork. It's very
Right.
sculptural, but it
Mm.
hangs on.
hangs on the wall.
Okay, so something that hangs on the wall,
Yeah.
though it is not, I mean, I guess when I was thinking three-dimensional, I was,
You're thinking sculpture,
Yeah.
yeah, but even those puppets you could hang on the wall.
but you don't think that someone could easily bump into it, them, of course, someone
They
could
could,
easily
and-
bump
no,
into a
and-
painting.
And Pontine is giving their things away and, you
Yeah,
know,
I don't
mean,
think, they're
don't think
touchable.
that's
These are
the
things
issue.
that people, that you
Yeah,
want.
but that sounds.
they're
it's
at
an
a point
interesting
where they
thought.
love to people have touched
That's a
it.
great idea.
So what do you think where do you think they'd want to do it? Like early in the process, middle, or towards the end of the year? Thinking of
After the new
2027.
year, after the new, oh,
So-
in 2027.
Yeah,
So sometime after January.
Like Janae McCartan, who was my.
Jenny is a great example.
She was like my next door neighbor when I first moved to Portsmouth on Wybird Street. And she does all these masks and costumes for plays. And I'm not sure exactly where she lives now because we both sold and her house got sold out from my mom. But she's been exhibiting up at the Barn Gallery in Agunquit with some member. She does amazing like
Yeah.
mask and plays.
And that would sort of change things up and,
Yeah.
Right.
and so it would also bring in performing art.
Performing art.
Because we have to think of public art.
Right.
You know, I certainly think of it as visual, but we need to make sure we're broader than that.
Right.
It'd be a little bit lighter load on this committee if just
That's what I
Pontine
was
was
thinking.
coming in, you wouldn't have to do a whole.
that one, yeah.
That would be up to them to figure out
Yeah.
what they
Right,
want.
that's why I want to partner with like PMAC and NHAA and Kittery
Yeah.
Art because they can do a lot of the curating. Because if we put out a call to art and we have like, I don't know, 50 artists that send us their body of work, it's an enormous task. I mean, now there's really just two of us on the committee.
Then let's make sure that at our next meeting, we prioritize that next call to art and what the parameters are for
Okay, that's
that. So that you don't get into that position.
Heather is moving on, leaving the committee, and Mandela left NHAA and is very, very part-time when time she's able to donate. So it's really down to two of us.
So, one more thing, because I feel we owe a next step to Vito. And, I hope you all had a chance to look at that concept. And I think everybody agreed at the last meeting that this was not something that we as a municipality should sponsor, but we should see if there are private entities that might be interested in partnering, and we certainly can help with that.
Yeah.
Jen?
I just had so many questions. I mean, I think he's amazing guy. I love his idea. I went through this and just said, I think we as a group, as a city, we've got to identify all these stakeholders, because there's so many people that are going to be involved in this, and what we have to do. But I think there also has to be a really big, hairy goal for what we're trying to do here. And again, why we're partnering with somebody who isn't local, because
Yeah.
for God's sakes, we hear that so many times. So I think those are things, identify those. And I think this is part of a huge working group, because it's a big thing. It's a really cool idea. And it's fabulous. I don't think there's anyone locally who has this kind of vision. I don't think so. So I just think there's so many things we could do. And immediately I just thought of, it's the perfect thing to do with Restaurant Week.
Right,
It's the perfect
Yeah.
thing to do. So that incorporates so many other partners. Because you've
Yeah.
got to get with the chamber, you've got to get with the restaurants, you've got to get with everything. And finding that venue. And again, it's just immediately think of. No, go ahead.
Your point is that's not for park.
it's not for.
Oh,
park.
It's not for us to do.
It's not for us to do.
But I think we need to move it along.
Right,
Have a lot more, here's what you can, because if you give somebody this, they're just gonna go, what?
no, we can't, that wouldn't be the handoff. Yeah.
But I think that's what we as a subgroup or somebody has to get, here's what we're really talking about. Because it's a fabulous idea, but it has so many other layers that
Yeah.
I think it just needs a lot more working out.
And what you'll need to put into, what is he looking for, kind of his fee for,
Well,
It's a
it's a
ticket
revolving, it's a reimbursable pool, like 30,000.
yeah.
But he also is gonna get the ticket sales.
I think that
That would reimburse the pool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Beth Falconer at 3S Art Space is the right person to have this conversation.
I think you're right.
She not only has the experience with this kind of cutting edge art, but also the partnerships with different organizations in the community and different, kind of bringing that out of her space and into the community. I think that she's the right person to be thinking about
Beth was
this.
not able to come, you remember Ben got together folks for us, and it feels like we would kind of owe it to that group to bring some of those people together and
Thought
bring
about
Beth
that. Yeah.
into that.
Yeah.
And she might say, well, this is a project for 2028, not
Well, sure.
2027.
And that would be
Probably,
fine, yeah.
she's probably already booked out. Like,
Yeah.
when I went to her preview for they have a full year of exhibitions pre-booked. I mean, so, but her space is a performance space and an art space.
Yes.
And she's used to working in
And-
a
Community space.
And that would not be a
contemporary.
good space for this work. It's a terrible space for
It
any
is,
kind of.
but she's I think the person that could help.
Yes, Beth, I think would be,
Pepper.
and she was very interested when we did this, when Vito was here before, but she was out of town.
So Chris, what pops into your mind as the space for this? Like if somebody was going to say,
The space under Jimmy's.
It's perfect for
oh, okay.
It is a really good.
The art space at Jimmy.
The art
Yeah.
space.
Yeah.
space.
Yeah,
Got the different
Yeah.
rooms for that.
it's got the different rooms. It's got movement through it.
And
It's
do they
got
have a
street
schedule for the
visibility.
whole year for next year?
Well, they aren't doing, they're not doing ongoing exhibits.
And they've already
But it's got
partnered
a great
with other,
space.
they partner with New Hampshire Art
Right,
Association.
yes,
does
they've
their
had a New
biennial
Hampshire Art
there.
Association in there,
So-
yes.
So they're comfortable working with other partners.
Yeah, that's a great, and you can have events there. They have, food and drink and all of that
Right.
stuff.
That's
It's readily available.
Yeah.
And it's such a marvelous space.
Right.
So you don't think 3S would work at all, or?
I think no.
I mean, just as, because I was just thinking as an
The-
alternate.
The low ceilings in there.
Yeah.
Are really problematic for anything like this, for anything that's projected. It's just painful to even try to, I'd go to every dance thing they do, but, you
Yeah.
know,
The one space they have is the art space that is the tall
Yeah.
loading dock space. And they have done a film exhibition there that was really interesting. But it's a very limited space.
it's
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 not
limited
large.
and the acoustics are
I was just
so
gonna say,
good,
the
you
sound
know,
in there
you
is-
cannot do
Yeah,
the
that's
film.
hard. I think
Yeah.
Jimmy's has.
So
So it sounds like a step, and I think we brought Ben in to get his ideas to maybe share these ideas with Ben and see if he thinks, because to your point about goal, remember that one of the discussions was Portsmouth needs a little refresh on some of these festivals that we have. I mean, people are really getting tired and worn on what we do over and over and over. And the excitement was, could we establish something that might be, attract people in a different way?
Yeah,
That
a different crowd.
a different crowd, a
As well as
younger crowd.
reinvigorate the current crowd, no offense.
Yeah, a younger group, instead of 30-year-old things that have happened every year.
And it'd be great to talk to the music hall about the New Hampshire Film Festival.
Yeah.
And some kind of collaboration.
That's
around-
And that's the same weekend every year. We know when that's gonna be.
Yes. But that would be an interesting, because that brings people from all over the country who are into not just film, but kind of this more cutting edge
Yeah.
art.
Well, I think any of the art venues have ancillary opportunities here.
And how soon would you talk to Jimmy's? Because I do just see also that they're in the restaurant business. So the food aspect is gonna be a really
So it's
great
March and
connection.
November, is that?
I mean,
the
they
two
could get really excited about it.
Restaurant
Yeah.
weeks.
You
March
can
and
get the
November.
restaurant, the chef community
Yeah.
engaged along with the art community, along with,
But I do think the chamber is core to this because they do all those
Yes.
connections.
Yes.
So I think our next stop is Ben to
Yep.
see if he'll pull some of these folks together to talk about the, and then to Jen's point, I think that group needs to have a Zoom or whatever with Vito to really hear in words.
Absolutely. Because he's gonna sell it, but we also have to be very,
Very concrete.
yes, because he's just out there and fabulous guy, great ideas, but we need some really concrete things that people can
Yeah,
understand. This is my goal, not just, isn't this great?
I thought his proposal was pretty, he got in, I think he's getting used to dealing with us.
I think it's more
Which
concrete
is,
than,
it's more
Absolutely.
concrete than he's probably used to dealing.
yeah,
Because he's,
There's so many stakeholders.
yeah,
yeah, well,
Yeah.
I just think
Yep.
if there's a handful that are really excited, they're gonna wanna engage with them. And then they'll do their thing. It's just not for us to,
Exactly.
it's for us to support, not to lead.
that's right.
So,
$30,000 though is a starting, that doesn't seem like, it's not 100,000.
That's right. And there are tickets involved with this,
Right.
which is another reason why we're not involved.
and it's
with
not a
it.
whole festival. It's much more focused on
Right,
this
Event.
event,
Yeah, and
yeah,
I just, it's really cool. But the right people who have the wherewithal to engage with him and make it happen need to decide that's what they want to do.
okay, good. I know we're over time. Anything else, people? Okay, so our September meeting, let's talk about the exhibits. In the meanwhile, do you want me to say to the Pontine folks, yeah, we're interested?
I think that would be a very exciting
Get
exhibit.
something
That-
planning going, have a conversation. Okay,
Especially
then-
since it's their anniversary, that's pretty
it's their
exciting. That's
50th
so- that's so-
anniversary. 50 years of
Yeah,
course.
that's a lot.
Yeah.
And Sean, we'll talk to Ben.
Yes. Yeah, that's exactly right.
And you're gonna talk to DPW about benches?
Thank you.
I'll put
Yes.
that in the list.
Ben and I have a meeting tomorrow with a gentleman who moved up from Boston. I'll just give you the website, take a look at it. He's not an event company. He is a cultural platform.
What does that mean?
Oh,
I'm gonna encourage you to.
oh, yeah, I responded to that email.
We all get the email?
Okay.
No, yeah. I think I got an email related to.
Yeah, he sent it to the whole city council.
To the city
Ben and I
council.
are having a meeting.
Yeah.
It's Colorworks. Google it, look it up.
Color.
Yeah.
He has done some things in Boston. He's been living in Portsmouth for 6 months. He has fallen for us. Now he wants to expand what he does.
He's a cultural.
Cultural platform.
Okay.
It's not like I need to do an event.
Is that ColorWorks all one word?
Yeah.
So,
Okay,
Just Google King.
yeah, he reached out to the entire city.
But he moved to Portsmouth, but he's still doing work in Boston.
Yes, so he lives here.
Understanding
He
you.
lives here and he primarily works from home.
Oh, okay.
Including whatever he does.
We don't know the.
Definitely interesting.
Ben and I are meeting with him tomorrow. Understand more.
Oh, and do they spell it color, COLOUR?
Oh, yeah, it's not,
Okay.
it's not WRKS.
Stuff. Good, Chris.
If that's it,
COLOU.
But I don't know if
It's
that's
English.
it. That's,
Well, this is
Yeah.
photographic.
Yeah.
That's, no, that's not it.
That's
that's not it.
Okay,
That's not it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not.
it's-
LOU.
I
Are you-
could look it
yeah,
up, I
stop.
guess.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Um,
This one, I hate calling it.
Thank you.